Are you ready to step into the next level in the dungeon crawling grind you know and love as Phantasy Star Online? That's right, folks. We're heading to the Lost Ruins. Welcome to the Abyss, folks. My name is Void Money, and today we're going to visit the ruins under Ragol. There comes a time in everyone's life when they need to fulfill their childhood desire to become an archaeologist, a la popular archaeology movies that they grew up with. And what better way to fulfill that desire than to play a video game where you explore ancient underground ruins. To start things off, head to the bridge in Pioneer 2's lobby and speak to Momoka as per usual. When we select Government Quest 4-1, The Lost Ruins, the description reads, "Break the seal to the ruins and get inside." And as you can imagine, when we click through to read the expanded description, it's going to provide way more information. "We believe that we have found ruins under the surface of Ragol. The entrance is sealed, however. Please try to find a way inside in order to investigate." Confirm the quest to be yeeted into dialogue with Principal Tyrell.
"I've been waiting for you, Hunter Voidmon 3Y. Let me get to the point."
Oh, so you'll be keeping this short then.
"The passage beyond the underground monitor room leads to some ruins, but there's some sort of seal, and we can't get through to investigate. You've done so much for us already, but we need your assistance again. Find a way to get past that seal and into those ruins. With all of our information, the lab believes that the key to unlocking the seal lies within the monument on Ragol's surface, the one down in the caverns, and the one most recently found in the mines. Somehow, those are the keys to unlocking the seal. As always, Irene can give you the details."
You just gave me the details.
"I'm counting on you."
As always. Now, let's talk to Irene.
Hello again.
Hey there, Irene.
Here are the details for this job.
Right to business. I like that.
You are to investigate and report on the underground ruins. The entrance to these ruins is sealed, however. The lab believes that the seal can be broken using the monuments on Ragol. The most recent one was located in the mines. They believe that these 3 pillars hold the key to opening the seal. Still, I wonder, this seal might be holding in something very dangerous. Anyway, don't let down your guard and be careful.
And now, let's talk to Science Guy 1.
The mines we discovered might have been created just to get to the ruins. That would also explain why there's a facility down there, too.
Makes sense. Now on to Science Guy 2.
I've got a tiny inkling.
Really? Is that what you have that's tiny?
About the previous civilization that lived beneath Ragol.
Wait, that's it? Well, anyway, on to the mission, I guess. When heading over to the telepad, you might expect to go into the Ruins 1, but instead, the game devs will be sending us with a curveball, as we'll be going back to the Mines 2 instead. Not a lot has changed, except some of the data nodes on the ground have useful messages about the story from Red Ring Rico. This also makes me wonder if I should have paid attention to more of these things, but whatever. Before long, you will make it to the Mines 2 monument, which you can activate for some flavor text in the data node next to it.
Here, I found the 3rd one. Will it fit together when all the parts are combined? Light, darkness, pair, exist, unlimited, rule, seal? I can make out each word, but I still don't understand the meaning of the whole thing.
And what do you know? I don't understand it either. If you made it to the end of the mines, you will come to the boss room for the Mines 2, and the death and destruction from the previous government mission will be carried over, so you won't have to fight Vol Opt again. Going through the telepad in the boss room at this point will bring you to a fancy dark and dreary entranceway of some kind, with a bunch of data nodes. The first data node reads,
I can say now that there was an ancient civilization on this planet, ruins buried in the ground. This is the evidence. The government was about to secretly conduct an excavation to study the ruins.
The plot thickens.
No intelligent life was discovered when Pioneer 1 landed here. Something else must have caused the destruction of this ancient civilization. What happened on Ragol in the past?
Finally, the last node will read,
The government was decoding all the characters as well. Here's their analysis. I'll try to fill in the gaps with my own data. Light, darkness, a pair, no, exist, no exist, unlimited, seal, Moot Dietz Paumen? What's the last line? An incantation? Seal, seal, What is sealed? Where? Is it about this door? Was it sealed with the words Mut Dietz Paumen? Maybe each word in the incantation represents something. I found 3 monuments. Are they the key to opening this door?
They must be, because now the door is open, and if you walk through it, you will be brought to the enigmatic Ruins 1. This area has some pretty difficult enemies, starting with the claws, which can combine into bull claws if left unchecked. Furthermore, if a bull claw attacks you, it will split into a bulk as well as several claws. Then there's the typical foot soldier Dimenians, with more dangerous forms in the La Dimenian and So Dimenian. That's just so Dimenian. You will also find the gargantuan, statue-like Dark Belra, who can shoot its fists out like rockets, as well as do a double claw attack for a ton of damage. There will be chaos sorcerers, who summon magic fireballs and ice attacks, as well as heal thanks to the abilities of the crystals floating at their sides. And of course, the coolest standard enemies of Episode 1, the Del Saber. Fun fact, you can actually get their sword arm and craft it into a cool weapon. I'll try to get one somewhere down the road. Fingers crossed. The Del Sabers will have glowy shields, as well as be able to close long distances and warp between dimensions of vertical spaces. Soon after the entrance, there will be another data node.
Why am I here, with monsters lurking everywhere? Did the army even stand a chance against them?
Huh. So does that mean the previous areas didn't have monsters when the Pioneer 1 crew first arrived? After battling through some enemies, you'll come to another room with a data node.
Wreckage. These weapons are from Pioneer 1. They must have already entered the ruins, and from the looks of things, fighting went on. It must have been a big battle. It seems our army was hurt badly.
Everything on this planet is just so terrible. Eventually, you'll come to a different room with a window that shows a view of a subterranean city, which I have to say is actually pretty cool. There will also be another data node.
I can see a distant view through this window. The ruins are huge. I would have never imagined such a great civilization.
You can then fight some enemies with the ruins as a backdrop as well, which is a pretty epic feeling. Making your way through the ruins, you'll eventually see a new kind of trap, which quite annoyingly keeps you encased in a rock cell until you or an ally can break you out. If you make your way through the hordes of endless monsters, eventually you'll find a whirly teleporter. And if you follow that, you'll fight through more hordes of monsters until you find yet another teleporter. That teleporter will bring you to a darkened room where you fight a seemingly endless horde of monsters. That is, until you beat the last wave. At that point, the lights will turn on and a red telepad will appear to send you back to Pioneer 2. As with every other mission up to this point, we can make our way to the Principal's office to turn in the quest. First of all, by speaking to Principal Tyrell.
So, the lab's hypothesis that the key to the ruins was correct.
Huh? Grammar?
But still, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised by this discovery. But how could anything be alive down in these ancient ruins?
Short and sweet, just like Momoka. On to Irene.
Glad to see you back alive and well. So those ruins were very ancient then, and yet more unseen enemies to deal with. Just when are we going to see the end of all of this?
Another short one. Then Science Guy 1.
These underground ruins. Some ancient civilization must have lived here on Ragol, but Pioneer 1 reported no signs of civilization on the planet's surface. The mystery just keeps getting deeper and more twisted as we continue.
Deeper both figuratively and literally. Lastly, Science Guy 2.
Pioneer 1 somehow knew that these ancient ruins underground existed, and they went to excavate them for research. And then something happened. Something.
Science Guy 2 really doesn't have the most useful dialogue, does he? In any case, that's it for Government Quest 4-1. Hand in the quest to Momoka, and that's all she wrote. Whether you've been following along with the Government Quest, or played through the Government Quest in PSO yourself, one thing is sure. This is the worst Government Quest in Phantasy Star Online Episode 1. Welcome to the Abyss, folks. My name is Void Money, and today we finally complete Government Quest 4-2, Buried Relics. As usual, you'll start this journey in the Principal's office of the Pioneer 2. Speak to Momoka to accept Government Quest 4-2. The quest description reads, get data on the writing from the stone monument in the ruins. Select the quest for the expanded description. Please take some data of the writing on the stone relics in the ruins. Finally, Accept the quest to be yeeted into dialogue with Principal Tyrell.
Thank you for coming, Voidmon 3Y.
Don't mention it, buddy.
You are, of course, familiar with the 3 pillars located on Ragall. One's in the forest, one's in the caves, and one's in the mine. And each of these 3 had some sort of writing on them. Currently, the lab cannot decipher the text, but with new data...
Don't trail off now, pal. Those ellipses don't speak for themselves.
The underground ruins have more symbols that could help us with this. It might tell us the reason behind the explosion, the seal to the ruins. This writing must hold the answers that we need. Please go and take some data readings of the ruin writing samples. Ask Irene to give you the details. I'm counting on you.
Okay, you're always counting on me. On to Irene.
Thank you for helping us again. Before I get started, please take this.
Hey, that tickles.
You'll need this device to take readings of the writing in the ruins. Holding this up to those monuments will let the device analyze them. I believe that the principal has already said this, but I'll explain one more time for your benefit. Orders are to get some data on the writing down in the underground ruins. A teleporter has already been set up to take you to the target area. Come back here after you've gotten enough data readings. The device will activate when you reach the monuments. If you have companions who also have devices, then whoever gets to the designated area first will cause all of them to activate. They won't function for long. Collect the data within the time limit. That is all.
Ha! Companions. Funny. On to Science Guy 1.
Analysis shows that those ruins are from a totally unfamiliar civilization. Normally, I'd be excited about such a discovery, but in this case...
Short and sweet. Science Guy 2.
Ruins of an ancient civilization discovered on Ragall. The problem is that we found wildlife, but no sign of sentient life. Maybe the civilization that built the ruins wasn't from Ragall at all.
Hey, slant rhyme. Nice. Anyway, there's a theory for you. Now head to the teleporter below and go to the ruins to start this awful mission once and for all. Why is this quest so bad, you may ask? Well, simply put, this quest has a pretty unforgiving timer in which to find 5 relics. That may not sound too bad, but your friends will only be able to join you if they've completed every government quest up until this point. And given that government quest 4-2 is pretty far down the chain of a bunch of quests on a defunct game that people don't normally do, you're going to have a lot of trouble completing this on your first, second, or even third try. So, first things first, you will have to scour the entire map for 4 relics in a decent amount of time. I would recommend skipping as many enemy rooms as you can, as long as there are open doors for you to explore. Sometimes enemies will respawn in a room you head back into, and if possible you should just bypass them to save time. I'd also recommend doing as few shop runs to sell loot as possible. I know, it's hard to turn down free Meseta, and if you don't mind doing the quest over and over and over again, then no biggie, waste as much time as you like. Anyway, moving on. Once you find all 4 relics, it's really important to have lots of extra time, because a telepad will appear to take you to a new room, where you'll have to kill several waves of enemies before you can take a reading on the 5th and final relic. Once you complete analyzing the relics, the timer will stop and a new telepad will appear. After 4 tries, I was finally able to finish this quest with just 5 seconds remaining. Yeah, that's part of why this video took so long to put out. Sorry. Next one will be faster, I promise. Anyway, as per usual, once you complete the parameters for the mission, you can return to the Bridge of Pioneer 2 to hand the quest in to Principal Tyrell.
You got readings from all the ruined monuments. Excellent. Please give the device to Irene. These samples should allow us to decipher the monument text, bizarre life forms, the explosion. Maybe the Pioneer Project had a secret purpose all along.
Yeah, and maybe you should check out my Pioneer Project video too, which is popping up in a card on screen right now.
I'll need your cooperation to solve this mystery once and for all. I'll be counting on you when that time comes.
Cool. Next up is Irene.
Welcome back. Here, let me take that device from you.
You alright over there?
Great, thank you very much. Why don't you go and rest up for now?
Okay, on to Science Guy 1.
By deciphering the markings on those stone relics, we might be able to learn something about the seal to the ruins, and about Ragall itself. I just wonder whether if ignorance is truly bliss or not.
Probably. On to Science Guy 2.
Pioneer 1 was also probably inspecting those ancient ruins. You found clues of this during your own investigation. I don't know what it is what they were looking for, but with all of these hostile enemies and that explosion, it couldn't have been good.
Alright then, now to wrap things up by turning the quest into Momoka. And thus ends the most annoying timed quest I've played thus far. Welcome to the Abyss. My name is Void Money, and today we will find out about Principal Tyrell's daughter. As per usual, this quest will first bring us to the Principal's office of the Pioneer 2, where we will talk to Momoka to bring up Government Quest 4-3, Hero and Daughter. The quest description reads,
A secret request from the principal. What could he want?
and this time the expanded description simply reads,
Details pending.
How curious. Confirming the quest will yeet you into dialogue with Principal Tyrell.
Thank you for coming.
Don't mention it.
Voidmon 3Y, you're the only one I can trust to get the job done. Here's the situation. Many volunteer hunters have searched to find someone but failed. I'd like you to search and see if you can find this person.
Wait a sec, let me get this straight. So what you mean to say is, I'm not the only one you can trust, but after you asked a bunch of other people first, and they all failed, now you're coming to me.
No, let me be frank with you. It's my daughter.
Dun dun dun, say what?
Please, try to find out what happened to her. Rico Tyrell.
Wait a second, you're related to that Tyrell? Who could have ever seen that coming?
I just need to know, one way or the other. To everyone else, she's the hero Red Ring Rico, but she's my little girl. I'm sorry. Please, ask Irene for further details. I'm putting my faith in you.
You know it's serious, because he didn't say, I'm counting on you. Anyway, on to Irene.
The principal wants this job to be kept top secret. Don't let this request leak out to the public. Now then, on to the details. Find some evidence of Red Ring Rico Tyrell on Ragall.
You mean like all of those info recordings she left all over the surface? You seriously didn't know about those?
There's no trace of her on the surface, in the caverns, or the mines.
Hey, are you hearing me?
The only clues to Rico's whereabouts are the messages you found.
It seriously feels like you're leading me on sometimes.
And now they've been discovered in the ruins as well. Search the ruins to see if you can find any clear evidence of her. Please do what you can. We really appreciate this. That is all.
Okay then, on to Science Guy. Wait, Science Guy 1? Science Guy 2? Huh, guess this really is a secret mission. Kinda weird, considering how many people Tyrell supposedly asked to go search for her before asking me. In any case, our quest will begin in the ruins of Ragall. We will have to go through all of the typical ruins monsters, including the Dimenian, La Dimenian, and So Dimenian. Nice Sound of Music references, Sega. There will of course be claws, as well as the Bulk and Bulklaw. The more difficult Dark Belra, Delsaber, and Chaos Sorcerers will also appear, and you will also have to fight the green-gemmed Dark Gunners and their red-gemmed counterpart, the Death Gunner, who are invincible until they prepare to attack. If you attack the red Death Gunner, then all of the Dark Gunners will be paralyzed momentarily. But if all of those enemies weren't annoying enough, there is also the sinister Chaos Bringers, which are kind of like a Cybertech Centaur. Good news is, Chaos Bringers will miss you every single time if you angle yourself next to their shields. Yum, that's cheesy. While going through Ruins 1 and 2, which will require you to navigate through all the usual annoying traps and door puzzles, as well as a labyrinthian, expansive ruin, you will occasionally come across messages left by Rico.
Pioneer 2, arriving at Ragall. This planet, already. We've lost control. Hurry, turn back.
As if that wasn't bad enough, the messages will eventually continue.
I've got no choice. I wonder what will. Everything up till now, it's no good. Somewhere I was a fool.
Continuing with the theme of confusing partial messages that don't leave you with the highest of expectations, the next message will sound just after entering Ruins 2.
I have been chosen. Superior. As a vessel. Everything. So that everything can evolve.
Somehow I have a feeling like this is more of a Pokemon evolution kind of thing. That is to say, a metamorphosis rather than generational change. I don't know why so many JRPGs depict evolution as an instant process as a result of amassing a large amount of energy or experience. But hey, I don't write the rules, I just write the scripts to these videos. Anyway, after crawling around the maze that is Ruins 2, eventually you'll find your way to the next message.
Still not satisfied. A more suitable host body. Evolve even more. It will consume all of Ragol, it calls forth.
Well, that's not just the least bit sinister. Don't worry, the next one will make us feel all better, I'm sure of it.
I can still make it while I'm holding it back. Stay away.
Okay, maybe not. Not much further ahead, you'll come across a room with many waves of enemies, and you'll be rewarded, once you defeat them all, with one more message as you prepare to leave the ruins.
Consciousness. So I'm sorry.
Well, an insidious loss of the conscious self? If it weren't already clear that this was deep sci-fi JRPG, it is now. Anyway, we can head back up to the Pioneer 2's bridge at this point to turn in the mission to Principal Tyrell.
I see. You couldn't find anything. Then she may already be. No, it's nothing. Thank you. Go and rest. You deserve it.
Sorry, bud. But anyway, first we need to talk to Irene.
Oh, Rico wasn't in the ruins either. I was hoping to help the principal put his mind at ease, but we mustn't give up yet. Keep looking, and if you learn anything about Rico, please tell us. Thank you so much. You've done so much for us already. Please go and rest up.
Welcome to the Abyss, folks. My name is Void Money, and today we complete the penultimate government quest in Phantasy Star Online Episode 1. This may be a penultimate quest, but as per usual, we will start off by heading to the bridge of the Pioneer 2. And as per usual, we will start things off by speaking to Momoka and checking out Government Quest 4-4, The Tomb Stirs. The quest description will read: exterminate the enemies and secure a path through the ruins. Selecting the quest will reveal the expanded description: exterminate the strange life forms in the ruins and secure a path to the bottom. Once again, we will confirm the quest to be yeeted into dialogue with Principal Tyrell.
Thank you for coming, Voidmon 3Y. I'll get right to the point here.
Great, I love brevity.
I want you to exterminate the hostile creatures down in the ruins.
Yeah, I figured, since that's what the quest description said.
Do this to clear a path down to the lower ruins. Yes, these are the same enemies that you encountered before. Until they're gone, we can't investigate the ruins thoroughly. You're the best hunter we've got. I know you can pull it off.
Well, I'm glad you came straight to me this time.
Clear a path for us, and make sure it's nice and secure.
How many times are you gonna repeat this?
That's all I need to say, I think. Irene's got the details. You can get them from her.
What sort of details do I possibly need for a mop-up style mission? Anyway, on to Irene.
Welcome. Let me explain the mission.
Clear a path and secure the ruins?
You are to secure a route to the deepest part of the underground ruins. Simply put, get to the bottom of the ruins. However, you'll need to eliminate all enemies that block our way.
Dang, it took you that many sentences to say clear a path and secure the ruins?
A teleporter has already been set up to take you to the ruins entry point. You can get there directly from the city. I fear there may still be some unknown enemies down there, so be careful as you encounter any unknown foes. That's it. Good luck.
Thanks. Now on to Science Guy 1.
The lab seems to have deciphered the text from those readings you took from the stone relics earlier. According to their analysis, it says, "Light makes darkness. A pair exists, but its existence is dubious." Dubious? Like dubious food? That kind of dubious? Reincarnation is infinite. The rules are laid. It must be sealed. Boot dietz Pomen. That's what they say at least. What could it mean though, I wonder? Who knows? Anyway, now for Science Guy 2.
It wasn't a coincidence that the Pioneer Project targeted Ragol.
Dude, that's what I've been saying for like 20 videos. Also, check out my Pioneer Project video if you haven't already. Moving on. Continue, Science Guy 2.
We've linked our current information with our older discoveries. About 20 or so years ago, a meteorite fell on our homeworld. Cells from an alien life were found, and those cells had a signature, quite similar to our own recent photon energy sources. Photon energy wasn't fully understood back then, so top scientists were brought in to see if they could unlock its secrets. That was when our world began to die, and a large-scale exodus was planned. They must have determined that the meteorite came from this part of space, and their probes found Ragol where they could continue their research.
Wow, all of this consistency talking to those doctors finally paid off. Seriously though, most of the great reveals have come through these guys, save for the one in the last quest. Anyway, as with every other quest, we will start off by heading down to Ragol via the teleporter, which will take us to the ruins, where we will begin the painful task of clearing the way and securing the ruins. Remember when Irene said she thought there still might be some unknown enemies down there? Well, there aren't. It's all the same stuff we've already fought, and in fact, the waves are a lot smaller, and overall this quest is way less time-consuming. There will, however, be a few novel things we've never seen before, such as destructible clutter and a room with poison gas. Otherwise, nothing much has really changed. Once you get far enough, you will come to a new type of room, however. It's a giant room where the walls pulsate with techno-organic organ tissue, kind of like some spots in Dead Space where the walls are alive. Once you leave this room, you will come to one of those whirly teleporters that usually indicate you're on the right path. Shortly after that, you will come into the scenario designer's favorite type of room to spring on us at the end of a government quest. That's right, it's a near-endless wave of enemies room. Luckily, it's not as hard as similar rooms in past quests. And once you finish the final wave, you will be rewarded with a red telepad back to the Pioneer 2. I gotta say, it's pretty gracious of the developers to throw us a bone after some of those awful quests just before this one. There aren't, however, really any reveals or story progression made during this quest. Even the message nodes left by Rico are pretty mundane. Anyway, once on the Pioneer 2, you will head back to the bridge to hand the quest into Principal Tyrell.
You're back.
Yeah, even I'm surprised with how quick this one was.
Thanks to you, we can get teams down to the bottom of the ruins. You can rest for today. I'll let you know when more orders are in.
Wow, even a short script. Irene?
Nicely done. We'll call upon you again when you're needed. Please feel free to rest up for now.
Wow, another quickie. Keck. Sorry, Irene. Science Guy 1? Keep this quiet, but high-density, abnormal photons have been detected in those ruins, along with those strange new enemies. What in the world could possibly be down there? Well, there's only one more government quest after this one, so I guess we're gonna find out. Science Guy 2.
If we'd never discovered photon energy, this never would have happened, and the wars that ravaged our homeworld probably wouldn't have happened. But it's too late to complain about that now.
Precisely. And finally, we can hand in this quest to Momoka to wrap things up, in anticipation for the final government quest. It's time. We've made it to the final government quest in PSO Episode 1. Welcome to the Abyss, folks. Today we conclude PSO Lore's foray into Episode 1 government quests. Sort of.
This may be a unique quest in that it's going to be the last, but it will begin as all quests do. We will start by heading to the Pioneer 2 bridge and speaking to Momoka and scrolling down to Government Quest 4-5, Dark Inheritance, and reading the quest description.
Get to the bottom of the ruins. The answer must lie there.
Select the quest to read the expanded quest description.
Whatever is down in those sealed ruins is what brings this all together.
Accepting the quest will once again finally yeet us into dialogue with Principal Tyrell.
Hunter Voidmon 3Y, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
This is quite possibly the last set of orders I will have for you. Here's the situation, as plainly as I can put it. The underground ruins found buried in the first place, and the reason for the seal at its entrance, well, brace yourself. The lab believes that this place is actually a huge spaceship, built specifically to seal something in.
Jeez, you're not holding back for this one, are you?
And now that the seal's been broken, that something is loose. If we don't do anything about it, a real disaster could be on our hands. Since we don't have any idea how to remake that seal, that leaves us with only one recourse. We must destroy whatever it is we let loose.
Hey, now we're talking. Let's strap up and ship out.
You're the only one to whom I can entrust this task. Our future is in your hands, Voidmon 3Y. As always, Irene can give you the details. I'm counting on you.
Talk about giving me the feels. And now, to talk to Irene for possibly the last time ever.
There's nothing more for me to say, really.
What a wild twist of events. You got nothing for me.
The principal has told you everything this time. I wish I could say for sure that we knew what was going to happen here. All we can do, though, is believe that you can deal with this dire situation. The more we learn about those ruins, the more frightening it seems. It's just so... Good luck.
That's it? Okay then. On to Science Guy 1. The Heart of the Ruins. Not to be confused with the Heart of the Cards, although PSO does have a card game too. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Science Guy 1, but still, Dang, so much stammering. How about you, Science Guy 2?
That which sleeps is in the heart of the ruins. It must be the key to this whole mess. As a scientist, I'm so curious, but reason tells me that it's dangerous. I still say that we need to get away from this planet at once.
But dude, our homeworld Coral is headed to the pits, and meanwhile, we traveled across the cosmos for years to get here. Anyway, with all of the big wigs having been talked to, we'll head on down to the Ruins 1 to start this final mission. There aren't any new enemies this time around, so I won't do too much explaining of all the same types of enemies we've seen thus far in the ruins. However, we will get the complete suite of Rico messages, so even though we've already read some of them on previous missions, I'll go through all of them as we come across them because they tell an interesting story if you read them in the correct sequence. So in short, lore reasons. Anyway, after fighting through the first few rooms, you'll find the first message left by Rico.
Why am I here, with monsters lurking everywhere? Did the army even stand a chance against them?
The next room will have a big pit, and there will be another message from Rico right next to it.
What is this big hole? It looks like remnants of some type of energy explosion? Energy? Was the central dome destroyed by this?
After this, there will be a couple more nodes explaining how to get past Del Sabers and one of the traps unique to the ruins, before finding the next story node in a room with some debris.
Wreckage! These weapons are from Pioneer 1. They must have already entered the ruins, and from the look of things, fighting went on. It must have been a big battle. Seems our army was hurt badly.
I think it's worth pointing out at this point that despite the wreckage left by destroyed weapons, there don't seem to be any bodies lying around, hinting at something else having happened to the soldiers that fell in battle. Something perhaps similar to the lack of survivors and bodies of colonizers we've seen thus far. In any case, the next node will explain Dimenians, but the following room will return us to the familiar view of the massive subterranean city in the ruins, along with the node describing it.
I can see a distant view through this window. The ruins are huge. I would never have imagined such a great civilization.
Interestingly enough, we have already learned by this point that the ruins are actually an enormous spaceship. In any case, the next room will have another message, which may sound familiar.
Those strange characters were found here and there. I think I have enough samples to decipher the meaning of the message on this monument. Light makes darkness. A pair exists, but it doesn't always exist. Reincarnation goes forever. The rule is here. It should be sealed. Moot Dietz Pomen. Does it make sense? I wish I had enough time to study these unknown characters.
Ah, yes, the curious mystery of Moot Dietz Pomen. Anyway, moving on. The next node will be a tip about the Chaos Sorcerers, and that will be the final message before moving on to the Ruins 2. Knowing that the Ruins is actually a giant ship, and coming to the Ruins 2 explains the interior of the structure in a way that makes more sense once you know the full breadth of it. The rooms and corridors do seem like the internal structure of a ship, with moving parts, hoses, and vents all over the place. And it won't take much exploring until you find the first node of the second floor in a room with 4 forks.
I haven't studied all of the characters, but I've got some useful information. This is the most important fact that I have found. There was no ancient civilization on Ragol. We didn't discover ruins. This is a spaceship. A gigantic spaceship.
You don't say. Well, we already knew that, but moving on. The next room will be a large room with turbines, and at the other side of the room is the next Rico message.
Still moving. The ship's still operating.
And not to leave us hanging, the very next hallway will have another message. But, unfortunately, it's just an explanation on the dangers of the Chaos Bringer. And 2 rooms later, there will be yet another message node, which is simply advice for dealing with Dark Gunners. Lame. However, the very next room after that will have yet another story node.
I'm now inside the ancient spaceship. Well, it's not just a spaceship, it's a casket. Something or somebody was sealed in the spaceship to remain buried here. What is it? Why was something buried in such a manner? Anyway, I know a monster is sleeping in this cave. We've opened the forbidden door.
Hey, those are some actually good questions. And something tells me we're going to get answers soon. But before that, we will fight through a few more rooms before we get to the next message node in front of one of those big crystal monuments with alien glyphs.
I want to run away, but I have no place to return to. Perhaps no one will ever find this message and listen to it, ever. Pioneer 2 will not come down when they discover that this planet is dangerous. Will somebody from Pioneer 2 still come to save us? Who knows? Regardless, I leave this message here. This is evidence of my existence.
Geez, so depressing. If only she knew we're literally right behind her, since she was evidently leaving these messages after the destruction of the Central Dome. Which, just to remind you, we witnessed in the opening cutscene as the Pioneer 2 arrived to Ragol. And just as fitting as this worrisome message, the telepad to the Ruins 3 will be in the next room. We may already be familiar with the 3rd floor of the ruins since we already had some missions here, but just to analyze it more closely, the walls and ceilings seem alive as a purple haze fills the cobweb-lined corridors. There's living organic growth, like organ tissue growing throughout this floor, suggesting some sort of techno-organic takeover, similar to the description I gave of the final room in the previous mission. Early on into the exploration of the Ruins 3, there will be yet another message node in front of yet another monument, which reads,
Dark Falls. That's the name. The god of destruction that revives in the millennial cycle. Perhaps this entity encountered a civilization thousands of years ago. They could not defeat it, but managed to seal it in this gigantic spaceship. They abandoned it somewhere far from their planet. It was this place, Ragol. We've come to a terrible place, at the worst possible time.
Further into the creepy sci-fi horror scene, there will be another monument with a cryptic message node.
Dark Falls is a consciousness. This entity has no body.
Well, that's all we're getting from this one, but after fighting through a number of combat rooms, we'll come to another message left haphazardly in a hallway.
I miss my father. I wasn't a very good daughter, was I? Is my father okay now?
Not much to this one in terms of content. But man, it sure does say a lot more in those few lines than many of the previous nodes, or even entire missions. You really got a feel for the Tyrells in moments like this. The third floor will continue to be sparse with messages, as we'll have to fight through several more combat rooms before coming to the next message node left in front of a monument.
Don't let it come in. The dark consciousness looks for the best animal to obtain its temporal host body.
Well, I guess as a cast, I'm safe then, right? Also, yay, body snatchers, my favorite. At least it doesn't sound like it's on the same scale as those head crabs from Half-Life. As you continue to explore the depths of the Ruins 3, you will eventually come into a small room dedicated to one message node. The message reads,
The door is already opened. We opened it. This may be the beginning of the end of the universe. We have to do something. We must do it. We have to defeat it now. Defeat it before that dark thing revives with the perfect body.
Wait, end of the universe? This is all starting to sound way more grandiose than it did when it was just the destruction of the Pioneer 1 and all of its crew. The end of the whole universe? Imagine that. We're all just minding our own business on Earth, and then because of some weird mind crab on a planet far, far away, the universe just ends? In any case, at least now we know the stakes if we fail, although I guess we don't really know what we have to do at this point. In any case, once we move on from this room, we'll come back to that final room with the gross brain walls from the last mission. We'll have to fight through a lot of enemies here again, but once they're defeated, the path to the boss telepad will be clear. Unlike the previous boss rooms, instead of being teleported to an even deeper level of the ruins, we're brought to a pleasant valley clearing with a giant obelisk in the middle, as well as what looks like a plaque for a grave surrounded by flowers. It almost seems like the perfect place for a picnic. On walking up to the monument, however, the pleasant scene will vanish and be replaced by a valley of death and decay with screaming faces on the ground. There will be a bunch of Beyblade-type things trying to kill us with chip damage, but after you take a few down, they'll all collapse, and the monument will reappear briefly before a giant beast with a smaller body coming out of its torso, and the entire thing sitting on top of 3 giant Dune-inspired sandworms that are conjoined to the monster at the waist will pop up. Very cosmic horror-y? In any case, this is Dark Falls. Warning for the wise, Dark Falls will have an ice attack that freezes you, so going in with a freeze resist will be helpful, as the boss will continue to attack you for lots of damage, even when you're frozen. I'd also recommend keeping your health topped up just in case he freezes you anyway. I'd also recommend using a ranged weapon or magic and aiming solely for the middle giant sandworm mouth, which will eject more of those evil Beyblades. It's a pretty linear fight if you approach it this way and avoid death by freezing. After dropping the health of Dark Falls all the way to 0, you will predictably change into a second form, at which point you'll have to fight the second phase. The sandworm legs just kind of get replaced by a floating flesh ball, and the main torso sprouts wings. This next phase's strategy will be to circle the arena and stop occasionally to cast fireballs, earthquakes, or freeze spells. This phase is pretty easy, however, even though Dark Falls does massive damage because he takes a lot of time between attacks, which gives you plenty of time to recover and also do more damage. He does have a large health pool, but eventually you'll take him down and see Rico's signature weapon, a red ring, drop to the ground in place of Dark Falls. Furthermore, you'll be rewarded with a splash screen for all of the hunters who helped you through the mission. And since this is a mission tree not a lot of people do, it's most likely just going to be you. But you can get the same screen and fanfare just by playing through the Ruins stage without doing any missions, and the cool song rewarded as fanfare is the song that's currently playing on this video. There is also a third phase if you play on higher difficulties, but we'll leave that for another video. There isn't much more left to do from here, other than pick up loot and take the final red telepad back to the Pioneer 2 to hand the quest into... Wait a second. To be continued. Thanks so much for making it this far into the video, folks. This one is a lot bigger than the previous quests, as you can tell, but I just wanted to thank you so much for making it this far, and also staying past the black screen. The next video in the series will be a compilation of all of the Ruins quests, and from there on we will be picking up the single-player story quest that I began so long ago
and didn't continue after the first quest. So with all of that out of the way, please like this video and subscribe if you aren't already. I'm looking forward to going on the next chapter of our PSO lore videos with all of you. Until next time, folks, have fun and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!